So a couple of things here. What are you going to hear about today? One of the things that, or before I go even off to this slide, if you've ever visited an Apple store, you can see, feel, and touch the build quality of their products. And that's because Apple's engineers follow the lead of both Steve Jobs before and Tim Cook now. Make it right or don't make it at all. And so Apple pretends to improve your life by creating products you didn't even know you wanted before they announced them. And today I'm going to tie these concepts to job search so that after the presentation, you'll know how to create your own unique brand premise. So these 6 points are what we're going to explore here. And you can read that screen, so I'm not going to. But the idea being you need a strong, unique brand because recent marketing research shows that the average American has a very short attention span of about 28 seconds. 28 seconds. Also, everybody in the virtual room here is being bombarded by over 3,000 advertising messages each and every day. So your message has to stand out in all of that noise so you can find the job that's right for you, and more importantly, avoid those that are not. And as you may have heard by now, the HR folks give you between 4 and 7 seconds to scan and review your resume. That's it. In the parlance of the job coaching world, we call that the 7-second rule. Now, if they do like what they see, they'll give you another 90 seconds, and 90 seconds can, of course, then lead to an interview. And follow that with a great interview can lead to a job offer. Note that Apple's process is very consistent, and they're very wise in how they protect their brand. Simply put, as you can see here, brands have power. But the best brands, however, have aspirational power. You see, great brands appeal to people's hopes and dreams, believe it or not. And now, why do I say all this stuff in such a dramatic fashion? And how does that apply to job search? I'm not quite clear. Let's look at the reasons why people buy things. And they're one of 2 reasons. I've been in the sales game for over 40 years. And in a nutshell, people buy because they need something, because it's going to solve a problem for them, or they want something. And in a nutshell, when you need something, it's normally considered a commodity item. And with commodity items, you believe that they'll solve a problem for you, or you buy something you want. And when it's something you want, you're able to find a reason to expand your budget a bit so to afford it. Take cars, for instance. Everybody always says, geez, I've got to have the lowest price car. Price matters. Price is this, price is price. If that were the only factor to consider when buying a new car, why aren't we all driving around in the Toyota Yaris or the Honda Fit? Last I checked, those were the 2 most affordable new cars out there. And yet we see that Cadillac, BMW, Ferrari, and so on, they have pretty good businesses. And this is because people that want to buy those cars will find a way to buy those cars. If you want something bad enough, you're more than likely to find a way to pay for it. Oh, and by the way, car sales research will show that the number 1 reason that people buy a specific car is because they think they're going to look good driving it. And price wasn't until actually number 4. So just to kind of keep that in the back of your mind. A strong brand promises several things to the customer base. More than anything, a strong brand promises something that you may not even be entirely tangible. In the case of branding, you can find that a USP down here is a unique sales proposition. And we'll talk more about that as the slideshow continues. But in fact, brands create emotional bank accounts in which that if you have a good experience, you will have actually a deposit in that bank account, okay? And if you have a good experience with a brand you prefer and know, that brand has satisfied you in some way, and therefore it has created that deposit that we just talked about. Or if you have a bad experience from a product, with a product from a brand you trust, you're still willing to give them a second chance, or a third, or maybe even a fourth, if your shared history is long enough and you know that historically they deliver other brand promises, and then you kind of let them slide on this one. On the other hand, you have a bad experience from a brand you've never used before. You see a withdrawal from that emotional bank account. And again, this is a product totally new to you, And given that you had a bad experience with the first time you used it, more than likely you won't bother to give them another chance at all. Keep that in mind as we continue today. Next, I'm going to describe how Steve Jobs introduced the iPod way back in 2001. I was in the auditorium when he did it, and it was really very moving. Instead of saying something along the lines of, this is an absolutely stunning chrome and white box about the size of a deck of playing cards. It has a 5 gig hard drive in this gorgeously engineered case. That means that you can hold up to about 1,000 songs in your pocket, and as well as a few contacts. Look right here. You can see there's a new connector out there. We designed it. It's called FireWire. It connects your laptop to your iPad, and you transfer songs in MP3 format from your hard drive to your computer in the hard drive in the iPod at 800 kilobits per second. You can turn your CDs into MP3s by a process called ripping, by the way. And in order to do that, the engineers had to work really hard together, writing a piece of software called iTunes, specifically designed for the iPod hardware. This guy right here is called the click wheel. This is a new invention just by Apple. And this guy is how you navigate your collection of music on your iPod so you can select a song or erase the, and now you look at these small little headphones down here. They sound incredible, and they just kind of hang in your ears as if by, wait. This is not at all what he did. It wasn't at all. Now, but all of that stuff that I just said was true, but most of you probably had your eyes glazed over as well. It was boring. It was true, but it was boring. How many of you had your eyes glazed over when I was talking about ripping and MP3s and FireWire and iTunes? I bet more than a few of you did. What happened instead was Steve pulled this device out of his front jeans pocket, put it up next to his right ear, and on the big screen in the auditorium, all the audience could see was the iPod and Steve's smiling face. And he said, introducing iPod, 1,000 songs in your pocket. You see the difference? Again, that first paragraph, everything I said was true. All of those features were in the iPod, in the original iPod, but it just was boring. It didn't resonate. The second statement, 1,000 songs in your pocket, was a marketer's dream statement. Short, sweet, to the point. And the average person could get it. You didn't have to be a techie to understand that. Now, brands that have earned their staying power, like Coca-Cola, and by the way, this background is Coke Red, they have to protect that brand. And so someone like Jim and I couldn't go out there and start a company making brown fizzy sugar water and call it J&D Cola. That would be against the law because we can't, especially if we tried to use the shade of red in our marketing. We'd be infringing on their intellectual property, and Coke could take us to court and likely win. On the other hand, Coke's responsibility is to use this particular shade of red, which is called PMS 484, or the Pantone matching system. And they have to use that in all of its marketing and advertising and in its packaging. You may have noticed that their trucks are painted this particular shade of red, as well as their cans and boxes. And even the threads on the logo on their delivery driver's shirts must be this shade of red. They've trademarked it. Therefore, they must be consistent in their usage of their color inside their brand theater. And brand values for someone like Coke, they're intangible, of course. It's not something like a building or a truck or a warehouse full of inventory. But brand valuations are reported in annual reports as an intangible asset and also something called customer goodwill. By the way, Coca-Cola estimates that 1.9 billion servings of their branded products are consumed daily around the globe. 1.9 billion servings a day. So we talked about needs versus wants a moment ago. And as you can see here on the column on the left, these are the four main hierarchy of human needs that was put forth by Maslow back in the good old days. In the right column, however, you can see want items. I would submit that in the case of a need, I only purchase it when I truly need it. I treat it like a commodity item, if you will, and I'll only replenish my supply when I'm almost or entirely out of that product. Excuse me. And that even when I need it, I look for the most affordable product in that particular category. Here's an example. My wife sends me to the grocery store to buy a 5-pound bag of sugar because she's baking cookies for our daughter's bake sale at school. Do you think I'm going to pay extra for gold medal sugar over the generic brand? I don't think so. The point here to understand is, like the automobile discussion earlier, if we want something, we're willing to pay more to get it. Look at the right column again. Does anyone really need a 63-inch TV, a Lexus, or a McMansion? I would submit, no, you don't need that stuff, but some of us want them. And in this discussion, then, price is more important to me when I buy commodities than it is when I buy want items. I'm willing to stretch the budget a bit for an item that I really want. Now let's translate that into business talk. The fact that you can see the available person to, you are the best available person to do what I need you to do in the unique way that you do it. In other words, that's your branding proposition. And that's what makes you an employer want you more than the next person in line. In the business wants category, he or she will be willing to pay more for someone that can deliver these results, more so than one who is perceived who cannot, even at least to the degree that I perceive you can. And this is why you want your brand to be highly respected and desired by employers, pardon me. In some cases, positions will even be designed and created for you if the hiring authority believes that you will be able to solve a problem for him or her so well that you'll be a star in the company. And guess what? You become a star, they become a star. You all win. At its core then, this is why you want to completely understand yourself and the value you've generated over the years of your employment. We have a 36-question instrument, which is free of charge, that can help you understand yourself, your wants and needs better. If you just send us an email at info@ecareercoaching.com, we'll email you out a copy. And at the end of all of that inward research and homework, you'll be able to create branding statements that rival some of the best that Apple has ever come up with. Just in case this is a new set of acronyms for you, USP is short for unique selling proposition. I'll cover SARS more completely on the next slide. But there are several things that can make up your personal brand. You can get the raw material from these sources right down here. As you can see, you've gotten letters from your customers, some of your colleagues during review time. Send your boss an email about how wonderful a job you did. If you've won any awards, either through your professional, where you work, or through committees you've joined outside of your work, you got to think about these things, and you've got to take some time to really work on it. And then also we kind of have to give up on a psychological quality we all hold too dear. It's called imposter syndrome. And that is, geez, I can't do that. Or I'm only average at whatever it is I do. No, you're not. You're probably better than you think. But you've never looked at it that way. And don't forget, we were all raised here in the Midwest where people are, I assume, and people are, pardon me, people are, what's the word I want? We just don't want to brag. We want to just go ahead with our lives and get along with it. But in this case, imposter syndrome is something you want to avoid. Look at it this way. You were valued at your last job, and you were valued at the one before that. Now we have to figure out why, and then we have to scale that value. And once it's scaled, it can become a brand promise statement for you. With great results stories, you'll be able to position yourself as a business want. Results stories on the next slide. So, all of these acronyms build upon each other to create your personal brand. SAR is short for Situation as I Found It, which usually takes about 3 to 5 minutes to tell that part of the story. Action I Took takes about 2 to 4 minutes to tell that part of the story. The result of my action, bang, should take about 5 seconds or less. 2 points, 2 problems. We are an interrupt-driven society, first and foremost. You tell me a story about the situation I took, as you found it, and you take 3 to 5 minutes to tell me about it. You take another 2 to 4 minutes to tell me about the action you took story, and that takes 2 to 4 minutes. And by the time you get to the result, my mind is gone. I've wandered. Remember, my attention span is only 28 seconds long. So we have the attention span of a gnat, and we are an interrupt-driven society. What do these things mean then to you? Well, if you think about it, I, the interviewer, will tune you out somewhere during the telling of your situation story and the action you took story. I'll probably never hear the result. And guess where the value statement is? Yes, in the result. If I never heard the result statements, you're not going to be hired because I won't think you know how to do anything remotely close to what I need you to do. But there are three things that make up the nutshell story here, and they are, very quickly, you need to quantify your contributions very carefully. These become metrics, quantified metrics. Quantified metrics drive business value. Create enough business value, and that overcomes inertia and creates business movement. This is the old move the needle comment you may have heard long before today. Everything else in the employment story builds upon these 6 cornerstones, the SAR stories and the metrics to movement discussions. So I mentioned that the interviewer will tune you out quickly if you're not careful. They will feel like you're trying to sell them something and you're being pushy about it. Not good. How do you overcome that? Very quickly, very easily, give the result statements first. You'll notice that if we talk for any length of time, I don't call them SAR stories anymore. I call them RAS stories, because it's more important that you tell me, I saved my company $5 million in software, I negotiated a $5 million savings in software, third-party software that we fold into our product. That's important. That's impressive. Tell me about it first. Tell me about the time you were 112% of quota for the last 10 years. Tell me you went to President's Club trip 3 times in the last 5 years. Those types of things. Don't forget the 3,000 advertising messages each of us are pummeled by every day. And then, think about it, what 3,000 messages I'm talking about. Pick up the pen you're using. It might say something as simple as BIC, or mine says my company name, eCareerCoaching.com. My phone has a logo on it. My computer has a logo on it. Those are all little ads. Drive to work, how many billboards do you see? How many radio ads do you hear on your 1-hour commute to work, let's say? So you want to make sure that your message can break through to the right person at the right time for them. But if you give me the results first, you're going to pique my interest. How did you do that $5 million savings? How did you hit quota 12%, 112% every year for 10 years? 1 or 2 years in a row, I can see, but for 12 years, that's amazing. This is going to pique my interest. And now that you're on my agenda, I'm going to ask you questions and I will listen to your answers. So this slide represents more of a question than anything. Where do your RAS stories belong? In the business needs category? Over here? Or the business wants category? Over here? From which category do you believe you're going to get a better salary? When will the most likely winner, when will you be the most likely winner in the job race? Yes, you bet. When you're in the want category. So where should you use your initial branding statements? I submit you need to do them everywhere. Remember mine? I help people unearth their personal branding messages so that they can show their unique value proposition during their job search. In other words, be found, get hired faster. Where do I use these branding statements? Literally everywhere. I don't know who my next client will be. And I bet you don't know who your next boss is either at this moment. And I'd submit that you don't even know who knows your next boss right now. Hence, networking. So the 8 points on this slide help you see what your branding statements are and where you should use them, especially moderated networking sessions. Branding statements also become your elevator pitch. Please make your elevator pitch no more than 30 seconds. Remember that 28-second attention span that we all have. Especially in a moderated networking session where you get 2 minutes. If you take the entire 2 minutes talking about you, you'll never have time to receive information back from the other people at your table. So always keep them really short, really sweet, and to the point, and that is 1,000 songs in your pocket. What's your bumper sticker? These things are also the lead in your resume, and they become a large part of your handbills. But even when you're at the grocery store, standing in line at the bank, you're at somebody's birthday party, anywhere you're asked, what do you do? And when do I use your branding statements? And again, all the time. Consider this. You're at a moderated network meeting and somebody just heard your elevator pitch for the first time for the whole 2 minutes. It sounded great, even though it was too long, of course, given what we just talked about. But you also happen to know someone, maybe it's your best friend who's the vice president of sales at XYZ Corporation, that's looking for someone just like this person, how they describe themselves. But since you couldn't give them that feedback during their session, you're going to look for them during break time. And since you were not able to provide that during their regular time, you're going to catch them over coffee in the back of the room. But as you approach them, they're bashing their former manager and company to another person, and they're doing it emphatically. It's someone else's fault that I was laid off. It was the manager was out to get me. This guy, the type of attitude I'm talking about. They almost sounded angry, and in that case, they could have created great difficulty for their former employer, for all you know. Now, combine that messaging with their elevator pitch. Does this sound like a match? Does it sound like it resonates? Frankly, no. I'd turn on my heels and run the other way. The lesson here is always stay professional out there. You may have had feelings a couple of times yourself, and that's fine. Welcome to the human race. Forgive yourself. Just get over whatever it is in the privacy of your own home. Because when you're in public, it's professional all the way. Now, these 6 points will give you some ideas as to where you should use your branding statements out there. But please, please, don't be that pushy sales guy that no one likes to hear from, okay? Give before you get when it comes to networking. Give before you get when it comes to networking. It will come back to you tenfold, I assure you. You know how everybody's kind of shy in an elevator? You get in, you kind of look at the door, you look at the little machine, the screen counting down the stairs. Hey, say something. If it's only you and one other person, say something. That's why it's called an elevator pitch. Talk about it in the elevator. Now, I mentioned at the beginning that I was going to talk about some hard-learned lessons. And one of the main ones is, number one, be very, very clear on what it is you want. Be consistent, be on point. So if you go to a networking meeting for, let's say, accounting professionals, let's make sure that you're talking about things like you like to work at a small to medium-sized company under 50 million in revenue, like less than 100 employees, along the lines of I like accounts receivable. I really enjoy those types of things. There may be another group that's focused on the big 6 or the big 4, or however many it is these days, the accounting firms and consulting firms that travel 80 to 90% of the time, and you like that. Or you don't like that and you want to stay at home more often. Make sure you understand exactly what it is you want so that I can help you, okay? And stay on point all the time, everywhere. Deposit into every emotional bank account you can find. And please, please, please do not wander into the pity party outside. Step outside your own shoes once and think about a time when someone you did not know well was talking about their sad story and about how badly things went and how poorly they were treated. Did you feel sorry for them? Or were you kind of like looking for the exit sign over their shoulders because you wanted to get away? My bet is it's the latter. It may not be, but I'm betting it's the latter. But the whole point is you want to practice your elevator pitch as much as you can. Think about it like this way. Academy Award winners do not just go out there and wing it. If they did, my money's on they'd never win an Academy Award. So remember to practice, practice, practice. You can practice in a mirror. You can record yourself on your computer or on your phone. There are some great programs out there that do that. And you want to make sure that people know how you do what you do as well as you do it. That way you can even transition to a new field if you are clear on what it is you do well and how it could apply in the new arena where you'd like to play. Remember the golden rule out there, please? Remember the golden rule. In fact, there's one called the Platinum Rule by Dr. Tony Alessandra. The golden rule, as you know, says treat others as you would like to be treated yourself. And the Platinum Rule is treat others as they'd like to be treated. So please take that all into consideration. And then lather, rinse, and repeat. If you want to get a hold of me, here are a couple of options. As you can guess, email is probably best, but you can give me a call too if you prefer that. I may have to get back to you though, but I want to thank you very much for inviting me here today, Jim, and the team from workNet DuPage. By the way, they do a fantastic job for their clients. I highly recommend their services. And then, you know, would be willing to take any questions that might have come up while I was talking, Jim. So if we want to get back to that.
Sure. So Chris asked, yes, selling 112% in 10 years is impressive, but what if I only did it for 2 years? So I am average.
No, that's not average. You said Chris, right?
Chris, yeah.
Okay, yeah, Chris, no, that's not average. 112% for 2 years is still very good, because if you think about that, the first year you were 112, and so now your new quote is probably that 112%. The second year you hit 112% again, so you grew your territory again, you know, 112%. So 10 years is almost impossible. I should have said it that way, but please do not downplay the 2 years in a row. And I'm assuming that you may have been invited to President's Club at that performance level. That's pretty darn good. I would definitely use that as one of my power statements. Yes. Okay.
Another one, I don't know who this is. It's anonymous. For digital branding, are there software resources that you recommend to help automate the branding process for LinkedIn, networking groups, job boards, etc.?
Electronic tools. So hopefully I can understand the question. What are the tools available to help you put your brand out there further? Do you think that's what their question is?
Yeah, that's what it seems like here with like to LinkedIn and networking groups.
Okay.
Job boards.
Gotcha. The one that I use is I blog at my website 3 times a week on usually Sunday night, Tuesday night, and Thursday night. Sunday night is usually a blog post article about the job search process. Thursday night, the same thing. Tuesday night, however, I just go looking for job postings and then kind of push those out to my audience. What happens on my particular blog, the tool set available in WordPress, for instance, if you want to become a blogger, you can automatically push that same post out to Twitter, out to LinkedIn, and out to Facebook and other services. Those are the 3 I use beyond my own website. So it depends on the platform that you decide to blog in. It does take a long time to build up an audience and a long time to get engagement, but it will happen if you are consistent. What ends up happening with a lot of people is they go out there and post 1 blog, 2 blogs, 3, maybe 4, and then, oh gosh, I didn't get any results, so forget it. But just remember, people are busy. Working people are busy. Right now, about 50-some million are out of work, so a lot of people don't have money to hire someone, maybe, a coach, for instance, in my case. And you know, they'll read my content, and hopefully somewhere down the road they'll remember me, and you know, when they do need something, they come to talk to me. I also have a book available, by the way, that's, as Jim mentioned earlier in my introduction, that's $20 for and I've retitled it for the Not Just for Executives Guide to Job Search, and the companion workbook. I usually sell those for $30 for the pair, but if you buy them both at the same time, they're $24. And actually, because I'm doing this presentation today with workNet DuPage, my special price would be $20 for both. So send me an email to info@ecareercoaching.com or sales@ecareercoaching.com, either one, and we'll get that book right out to you. We take PayPal, credit cards, Venmo, Apple Pay, all kinds of different ways to pay for the books. Yeah, those are the types of tools. If you have a bunch of content, and I mean a bunch of content, then you can use something like a Hootsuite, which basically you can set up let's say a year's worth of posts or a year's worth of content. Every 3 days, I want this message to go out, or one of these messages. And it will queue those up, and on that date and on that time, it will push that content out to LinkedIn. It'll push it out to Facebook and so on, Twitter. So those are a couple of tools I can think of off the top of my head. I hope that answered the question.
Yeah. Another question from Lucille. How do we find that perfect brand for ourselves, like the 1,000 songs in your pocket? Is there a book, a video, or a class?
Yeah, there's again, the book is something that I turn most people to immediately. But secondly, of course, obviously, if you hire a coach or you even work with the folks at workNet DuPage, they can help with that too. The idea is to understand yourself, Lucille. What are the things that you love to do? What are the things you hate to do? What are the things you can handle them if you got to do it. But you know, being happy at a job is on a spectrum. All the way to the right is 100%. I love my job. I get up, and this is the way it was for me at Apple for about 14 and a half of the 16 years there. I didn't work a day in my life those 14 and a half years. We just had fun. And we had some great customers. We had some great dealers. We had some great colleagues or coworkers. So what we would do was look at the impact of the activities that we did. What trade show did we go to? What trade show, how many results, how many people bought something as a result of our presence? How many people did we engage with, did we talk to? And those become quantified metrics that become the types of things that will build into the 1,000 songs in your pocket type of thing. So Lucille, I hope that answers your question. If it does not, please feel free to put in another one there for me.
Yeah, Don, if I could add, I have found that even with my own brand, I call myself a conduit of information or a career doctor triaging the wounded from corporate warfare. These are things I've learned. But also talk to people, ask them, can you listen to what I do and how would you describe me? Because when I've sat down and people are telling me what they do with their resumes, I remember one lady, if we were doing a creative workshop on their superhero, she made an octopus for herself because she was doing so many different things. Mm-hmm. So take the time to look at what you do and look at feedback that you've received throughout your career of what people said about you. Yeah. Boy, you seem like this or something. Or maybe you need to talk to someone who thinks more marketing to describe you. But I find when you talk to other people, you're getting it out and other people can help synthesize it for you.
Absolutely, especially if former managers, former colleagues, former customers. If you had that good a relationship, ask them, what are the top 3 things you think I do well? And to Jim's exact point is, how would you describe these three personal traits that I have? Again, we have an instrument, the 36 questions, that will help you dig down, and that's free, by the way. just it's called Finding Your True North. And you don't have to answer all 36 questions. Some of them are pretty touchy-feely, but hey, a big part of job search is your spirit. And the old Native American conversation about that is, grandfather, I see there is a bad wolf out there, and I see there's a good wolf inside my heart. And so which one do I feed? Which one is going to be the healthier one? Which one's going to win? It's the one you feed. So which one of those 2 wolves do you feed? What have you done? What have people said about you? To Jim's point, come up with something and try it out on people you know well, your best friend. Sometimes your spouse is not the best person because they love you and they're not going to want to hurt your feelings, or your significant other. Again, try it out on people. Many years ago, I sent an email out to people I worked with and were close friends of mine in my network and asked, what are my top 3 pluses and what are my top 3 minuses, so that I could be ready for those minus questions in interviews. Okay. And then that also helped me create my brand, even for the company here that I have now. Does that make sense, Lucille?
Yeah.
And also Jim?
Okay, let's see. Did you suggest keeping the tell me about yourself pitch to 30 seconds in a phone interview? And that's from Mike.
Okay, hi Mike. Good question, Mike. Those types of things, if they are full of good stories, like the other gentleman, I think it was Chris, that said he was 112% 2 years in a row. When you've got 3 to 5 really strong impact statements, or power statements, as I call them sometimes, yeah, keep it to 30 seconds. Do not talk about, well, I was born in, southern Mississippi, or I was born in northern Michigan, and I went to high school, and I went to college, blah, 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 blah. You're going to put the other guy to sleep, and you'll have nothing to do with the job. Again, you want to learn how to decipher job postings so that you can use your positive statements and your impact statements correctly to help warm up the person across the table from you. A lot of times that happens in the hallway on the way from the front desk back to the conference room. Of course, today it happens mostly on Zoom, but in those situations, you don't want to go too deep, and you certainly don't want to wander into too much personal stuff quite yet. You don't work there yet. So remember, the HR people, and please, if there are any HR people out here, I do not envy you your job one bit, but HR people are there to call you out in order to get to the best 3 to 5 people to bring in for an interview. And they can literally get hundreds, if not thousands, of resumes. I believe I read a statement where Google actually gets well over 1 million resumes a month. Well over 1 million resumes a month. So how are you going to, stand out in that noise? And so you've got to really have help coming in the side door.
Okay, Sherry asks, what happens if you're trying to get into a new career field? What is the best way to start the process? She just got her PMP certification. And
it would be interesting to know where she's coming from to get into the project management field. But the idea is soft skills are just as important as technical skills. An example I use is in my own career. I worked for Apple for 16 years selling Macintoshes and all of the things that Apple made, iPods and iMacs and so on and so on and so on. And then after I left Apple, I was out of work for a little while. I went to lunch with a person that I used to know at Apple. And it turns out he was a vice president at a new company called Zebra Technologies. That sells heat printers. So if you've ever rented a car, you got your receipt out there at the or at the car rental place, that was probably a Zebra printer. And I was selling service contracts on those types of high-speed printers. It's like, how do I get from selling Macintoshes to selling service contracts on printers? The idea was that guy knew how I did what I did. He had a problem, and that was the guy that was selling the service contracts prior to me was an incredibly intelligent guy. His programs were so well thought out, it was amazing. And I worked at Apple, and this guy was probably one of the better marketers I've ever met. But the problem is he didn't know how to present them to the guys that sell the printers to help them add on the service contract to the printer sale. So they had about $8 million in business laying on the table. And by the end of 3 years, going back to Mike's question and Chris's question, we went from $1.3 million in sales to almost $8 million in the course of 3 years. It wasn't through my selling those things, but rather my helping others sell those things. So he knew I could get along with just about anybody, and we'd have a good time, and we'd dig through the big brick wall that had been built up between the two divisions in the past. By the way, that gentleman's name was known as Dr. No, so to get an indication as to the situation he was in. And so that's what I do. He knew I could fix that cross-departmental bridge that needed rebuilding. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Another question here from Martin. Would you recommend using another well-recognized brand to promote your brand?
Ooh, that's water. I'm wandering into some crazy waters there, Martin. Um, if you mean using the types of branding statements and the types of branding, you know, like you can see my logo here, that dark blue color is my corporate color, all of those kinds of things. Again, don't borrow someone's assets because that's, you know, infringement upon their intellectual property. But if you like the way they do things, find a way to put your power statements into the same language. You know, use that. I think Lucille asked, you know, how do I get to my 1,000 songs in my pocket? So use that as something to aspire to. This is where I want to get my bumper sticker down to. So use it as an example, but don't use their stuff. Even if you were in sales and you sold to, you know, Disney, and you sold to Coke, and you sold to, you know, Enterprise Rent-A-Car, and so on and so on. Be careful using those logos in your work, in your paperwork, because those are you may have signed a non-disclosure agreement or a non-compete agreement with your former employer, and you just can't use those logos and those names. But certainly model your stuff after some company who's marketing you that inspires you, by all means.
Sometimes, if I can just add a personal experience, years ago I was hiring a trainer, and we were doing performance type of second interviews, do a mini presentation, and she almost lost. Well, she did lose the manager. The director of our program was sitting in, and this lady passed out Coke. And I can't remember exactly what the exercise was, but she gave everyone a Coke can, and maybe they had to describe it or talk about it. Well, the director of the program at the time hated Coke. She said it was a great presentation, but I hate Coke. I like Pepsi. You know, so you got to be careful with brands.
Yes.
Is that, you know, I've even heard of a company owner that hated people from Notre Dame.
Yeah, sure.
Notre Dame has a great network, but for whatever reason, he would never interview or hire anyone from Notre Dame. You know, people have bizarre, you know, brands trigger things, either positive or negative. That emotional bank account that you're talking about is so true.
Yeah.
So I would make up your own brand personally.
Yeah. I use the terms XYZ company and ABC company a lot. Because, and MNOP company or, you know, whatever, for that exact reason, Jim. And
Hey,
you know,
we must have worked for the same companies.
Exactly. Exactly. Does that make sense to whoever asked that question? I'm sorry, I don't remember the name. Was that Martin?
Martin, I believe. Yeah. There's a question here. How do you learn to decipher job statements?
Oh, yes, very good question. The quick way to do that is not quick. It's never quick. But and again, none of this work is quick. None of this work is easy, as Jim will attest. It's hard. You've got to think outside the box. You've got to look at yourself very objectively. And one of the problems we as human beings have is let me give you a little John Wayne statement. A man is what a man does. It's like, no, you know, John, that's no longer true. That's just something I do for work. But you've got to separate yourself from your skill set. And so the person who asked about how do I change from one industry to another when she got her PMP, you know, what are your skill sets? What are the things you do that no other PMP person can do? And that could easily be something like building bridges, using the example I gave you about Zebra Technologies. It's a soft skill. It's something that you do differently than anybody else that might be applying for that job. Ask yourself this question. You write your resume, you write your professional summary up at the top. It's a phrase. The first phrase comes out, I am a dedicated, decisive individual contributor with more than 20 years experience. Now, if you count to 7 or give 7 seconds and you count to maybe you'll get through the second sentence, maybe, of your introductory paragraph, make sure that real estate contains big boom messages. I was 112% 2 years in a row. I was President's Club the following year. I did, or, you know, maybe you don't want to use I did because that sounds a little narcissistic, but, you know, 112%. Give me big numbers, give me big impacts right up front so you catch my eye, so you get that 90 seconds. Does that answer that question? I think I wandered a little bit out in the weeds there, but I hope it was.
Yeah, one of the things if I could dovetail on that, Don, is we're reluctant to talk about I,
yes,
and we talk more we.
yes.
And I remember watching some young lady in Starbucks getting interviewed by two people, a guy and a lady, and the guy was asking basic questions, and then the lady interviewer jumped in and started literally yelling because I could hear her over the cappuccino machine.
Oh boy.
You're wasted 20 minutes of my time because I want to know what you did. I don't care about your team. I don't care about your store. What was your role? What were your accomplishments? What did you do? And I feel in the interview that even I do it. You know, as my wife says, what's this we stuff? You know, so you got to separate yourself out from everyone else. And HR people that I've talked with said, this is your time to brag.
Yep.
And I don't consider it bragging. I consider it stating fact.
Absolutely. So, if you did it, it's not bragging. Who was it? Walter Brennan used to say, no brag, just fact.
Yeah.
You know, this is an excellent time to take that attitude on, because you only get 20 minutes. You only get 40 minutes. You only get, you know, however long, you know, was scheduled with the HR person, with the hiring manager. So bring your best stuff. And the reason why I'm always talking about being professional out there in public is because you're going to find your next job more than likely by being referred, either an internal referral or an external referral. Because if you take yourself out of your own shoes, put yourself into the hiring manager's shoes, who am I going to believe? Some person I've never met? Or am I going to believe Jim when he tells me I need to look at Lucille's resume because I've known Lucille for 20 years, if I'm Jim right now. Don, I've known Lucille for 20 years and she's very good at what she does. And I know you've got this problem because we've talked about it on the golf course last Sunday morning or whatever. And guess what? I'm going to review Lucille's resume because Lucille was referred to me by a trusted source. So this is why you always want to be professional, never do any bashing. And this is why you want to make sure your power statements are very short, to the point. They're sweet, they really resonate. 1,000 songs in your pocket. You know, raise your hand if you're sure, you know. Remember that deodorant commercial? You've got to find a way to present your long 5-7 minute stories in bite-sized chunks. Is it easy? No. Is it worth it? You bet. You bet. I mean, how many of you remember when Toyota had a problem with the brakes? How many times have you heard about that from Toyota since? Now, no, it's let's go places. Look at this brand new RAV4. Look at this new Corolla, so on and so on and so on. You don't have to talk about all the bad stuff that happened. Talk about the good stuff. An end of sermon on that one, I think. But yeah, I mean, it's not brag. Jim's absolutely right. Show me the sweet stuff. Give me the stuff I need to make the decision that you want me to make, and that is to hire you.
I'm just looking here. There was a long comment here in the chat. I just wanted to make sure there's no questions.
Okay.
How do you decipher job descriptions to select or apply?
Yeah. I'm sorry. I never did finish answering that question. My apologies. I interrupted myself and went on a tangent. I do that once in a while. You decipher job
difference. I think the last one was job statements versus this one is job descriptions, whether to apply or sell. So I don't know if it's accomplishments, but I'll let you go on with the job descriptions.
Yeah, descriptions, the idea is, in particularly with the woman that wanted to change into the project management space, look at a lot of them. You know, go on Indeed, go on Glassdoor, go on Next, go on Monster.com, find or whatever the term, the title is for the job you're going for, that you want, and read the descriptions and start to see things that you see in a lot of different postings. You know, must be able to do X, must be able to do Y. Start writing those down separately, or use different colored Sharpie markers, highlighters, whatever you want to call them. And so you're starting to see some commonalities of all of these jobs, you know, of verbiage in all of these job descriptions, so that you can now take your branding statements and apply those to that job description generically. Yeah, does that make sense? I hope.
And some of the workshops that I've done, I've created like little cheat sheets or something where, you know, you could, what do they want, you know, duties, responsibilities, deliverables, tools. And then on the other half, you put, what do you have, you know,
Yes.
and kind of match that up.
Yep.
And then, you know, you read through it, and part of it is, can you see yourself doing the job?
Exactly.
Because it's important that you see yourself doing the job, because if you can see it, now you have to show the hiring manager how you can do the job, so they can picture you seeing you do the job.
Yes.
A lot of this is, well, this is what branding's all about, is making people see that they need you.
Yes,
Right?
exactly. Exactly. Without you before, oh my gosh, or actually that you want them to want you, Jim.
Yeah.
It's a given that you have the technical skill to do the job. But the key is to, you know, be in that want column, where they're more likely to, A, you might even get a job offer on the spot. B, you might be able to negotiate for a higher salary, or more vacation, or a company car, or you know, whatever. So make sure that you are in that want column. But the way you do that, to Jim's point, is you start to pick those things apart, those job descriptions apart, and you find their commonalities. And you put, there's always a need to have area, and then a want to have area. And sometimes you have to get a little creative in how you read those want to haves, because a lot of times that's the soft skill area. Not always, but it's a lot of times that's where they want that. That's where they want that set of skills that no one else has.
And I want to go back to something you said earlier about quantifying.
Mm-hmm.
And I've said this before in some of my workshops. Both my sons, the one son, you know, was looking for a job. He was in warehouse and inventory control. And I said, you need to put some numbers on, you know, how many, he was working for Sears, you know, the appliances that, you know, that come out service here. Well, he was taking care of 120 trucks and millions of dollars of inventory. Once you put that on his resume, within 10 minutes, he got a call off Career Builder.
Yep.
And my younger son, he wanted a raise at the summer job. And I said, don't go in and just say, I want a raise. Talk about everything you've learned, how you've helped, how you jumped in and all this other stuff, and how you trained new full-time people.
Mm-hmm.
And by the time it was over with, I think the guy gave him $6 more per hour. Wow. My son wanted something between, I think the other day he said 12, but I think we started at 15. But the guy says, no, I see 19. And I could see you running the branch. But he started off with the numbers, the results, before the negotiation. So, okay.
Yeah, that's key. One thing I'll add to that too. I had an administrative professional that I worked with about 5-7 years ago that said, "Well, gee, I'm just a secretary. What have I done to have any of these SAR stories?" And I said, "Okay, well, I don't know. Let's talk to me. Well, what did you do? What are you most proud of? What did people tell you? Thank you. What did your boss say? Wow, I really like the way you did this project." Now, for instance, in her case, they had 10 salespeople out on the road day in and day out. And then at the end of the week, I'm sorry, at the end of the month, they all emailed in their spreadsheets for their expense reports. Well, their expense reports, everybody did their own. They did their own thing. So she had to spend 4.5 days, 4.5 days, Jim, trying to sort through all of these different spreadsheets and putting, you know, gas in this column and putting entertainment in that column, dinner in that column, golf in that column, so on and so on and so on and so on and so on. And it would take her 4.5 days to get just an expense report done for the month. And so she came up with the idea to create a template. And everybody used the same template. It had pop-ups. So if you bought a case of paper, then you bought a case of paper and it belonged in office supplies. And so everybody's answer to the question was the same. How many times have you seen a database have 123 Main Street, which is ST period, or 123 Main Street, STREET, or 123 Main? They're all the same place. They're all the same address, but they've changed just enough that you can't find them. And then therefore you can't be sent the email, you can't be sent the mail, you can't, you know, they can't find you on their GPS, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So the conclusion I'd like to draw there is if you are an Excel guru like this woman was, but they're asking for a spreadsheet expert, don't have in your resume, I'm an Excel guru. Have in your resume, I'm a spreadsheet expert, and here's how I prove it. So you always make a sentence in your resume and you say, so what? If you have a good answer to that so what question, you're good. And then you say, says who? And if you have a good answer to that question, you're good. If you don't have an answer to those two questions, either take it out or reword it until you can say, so what, blah, blah. I saved, oh, by the way, this woman's process went down to 45 minutes. She could do all of the Excel spreadsheets of all of the expense sheets for all the 10 salespeople in 45 minutes instead of 4.5 days. Save time for the sales guys, save time for her, got more accurate data. Now the accounting people are happier. And just think about how that type of impact ripples throughout the company. That's what I mean, quantify your metrics and then scale them.
Yeah, ironically, that was one of the questions about administrative work who don't have numbers to quantify. And I think you showed how to drill down.
Yep.
The other thing is that if it went from 4 days to 45 minutes, how do you take, you know, what's 4 days, 8 hours, 32 hours, what's your hourly rate?
Exactly.
And multiply that out. And that's how much you save the company in 1 year.
Just for her. Just for her.
Just for her. Yeah.
Now, remember, now we've also reduced errors in the accounting area that we don't know how much that costs, that used to cost the company, but now it doesn't cost the company anything. And it used to, you can ask the salespeople, how long did it take for you to fill out an expense report before? How long does it take you now? Do the same thing Jim just suggested. Say, okay, I went from, 4 hours down to 10 minutes or whatever the truth is. And then do that math. Say, okay, what's the hourly rate of our sales team? Times 10, times 52. And all of a sudden the number from a secretary who says she never did anything important becomes like, holy mackerel, you saved my company a truckload of money. Thank you. To Jim's point earlier, now this is a way for a kid to get a raise. This is a way for an administrative professional to become, instead of the secretary for the vice president of sales, to become CEO secretary or something along those lines. So there's always a way to quantify impact, always a way. But like I said, you got to dig, you got to think, and you got to think outside the box and look at things differently than what you normally look at them, the way you normally look at them.
I think you addressed this a little earlier with your spreadsheet expert versus Excel guru. Question for Mark is, how do you turn your brand into keywords so the company can pick your resume out of 1,000 resumes?
The key, Mark, is to not be in that pile of 1,000 resumes. And by that, I mean, you are networking your way in the side door to the guy that's in the hiring position. So being found in a pile of 1,000 people that probably 500 of them know enough to try and find keywords and put them in their resume and then be found by the ATS system, the applicant tracking system, the odds are not in your favor. on Indeed, on Monster. Yes, it happens. People do get jobs there, but it's about 1 to 5%. Isn't that about right, Jim? Would you folks there agree?
Yeah, I've seen various studies, but
Yeah.
really, when you read human resource reports of how they find candidates, the number one way is referrals.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And it's because, again, you're coming in as a trusted source, Mark, or you're coming in from a trusted source. So like I said with Lucille, if Lucille and Jim are friends, and then Jim and I are friends, and I happen to be a hiring manager looking for something Lucille does, or you, Mark or Mike, oh, shoot, darn it, I'm usually good with names. If Jim gives me your resume, I'm certainly going to review it because I trust Jim. I know Jim. I believe that what he's earned that right from me. And if you've earned that right from him, he's going to now, halo effect on you in my estimation. So out of 1,000, that's a tough one. That's a tough one. The odds are just not in your favor. It can happen, but the odds are not in your favor. If it's 1 to 5% on big job boards, that means you're failing 95 to 99% of the time. So where should you spend your time? You ever heard of, I don't know if anybody's ever heard of the Pareto principle. It's the old 80-20 rule. 20% of your customers create 80% of your sales. In this case, in job search, 20% of your efforts will generate 80% of your results. I'm sorry, the other way around, So if all you do is spend time on job boards, your odds are not good. But if you spend your time networking, you got a little bit better opportunities. I had one guy within 6 weeks was juggling 43 opportunities. I've had guys that don't want to do the work as hard as I recommend they do it. And after 6 weeks, he was juggling 3. Do you get up in the morning and do you feel like doing the kinds of things that Jim's group and my group will tell you to do? Or do you just feel like, putting in an application online again? You're at the front door waiting in line to talk to HR with all the other 2,463 people that want to apply for that job. Or you're sneaking in the side door talking to the manager of the division who can make a decision on hiring you. Does that make sense? And did that answer the question?
I have to, well, you triggered an early memory for me when I first started at workNet. There was a hotel opening up downtown Chicago lakefront, brand new hotel. It was January, sub-zero weather. There was 2,500 people wrapped around the restaurant, freezing just to get an application and a mini interview.
Uh-huh.
But one of the guys in our workshops knew someone inside the company, and he went in the side door, literally, had his interview, and was gone within an hour and didn't have to get cold. So as Richard Nelson Bowles says he's the guy who wrote What Kills Your Parachute. The internet, or these job boards, are like the Venus flytrap for the lazy job seeker. They're nice. You can use them to see what job descriptions are. But I would recommend, as Don does, is look at what companies you want to work for. Use these job descriptions as positions to understand, here are the skills that are common. What are my skills? And then target companies. And that's hard because it's a reactive. When you see a job ad on the internet, potentially 7 billion people have access to that.
Yeah, literally.
And just like you said, 1 million resumes per day at Google. I thought it was 2 a year, but but now it's like they're inundated.
Yeah.
So think of standing out in sub-zero weather with 2,500 people, or do you want to be the one guy who got in the side door, in and out within an hour, and stayed warm?
He probably had the job offer too, didn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's really the secret sauce behind the hidden job market that everybody's heard about, and nobody knows where it is. And there's a reason you don't know where it is because nobody wants you to know where it is, because they're either probably trying to hire someone inside, or someone has already been identified, or they don't want 4 bazillion resumes for this position. Place I used to work in, Zebra. In fact, this through my ministry activities prior to opening the business here 15 years ago when I started there, I asked the guy, I said, hey, look, why does everybody, they create their resume just for the position, they do a cover letter, they do everything asked on the application, and they never hear back. Has anybody on the phone ever heard that one? And I bet, I can't see the chat box right now, but I'm going to bet you're getting yeses like crazy. And the problem is they would be responsible. Each guy in HR, and I think there were 5 guys, each of them were responsible for filling 10 positions. So that's 50 open positions at any one time, day in and day out for Zebra, all the way from warehouse workers up to vice president of engineering. And if you think an HR person can understand the subtle nuances between what a business development manager does versus an account executive, not going to happen. And it's not because HR people are stupid. It's not. They are great. They do a wonderful job, and they are overwhelmed. Because if they, this gentleman told me that when they would post a job, they would get on average 500 resumes per posted position. So if you do some quick behind the napkin math, that's 25,000 applications for 50 positions. There's no way someone's going to be able to get through all of those resumes and make a statement to you as to why you didn't get it. Number one, they may never have seen it because the ATS never found you because you said spreadsheet expert instead of Excel guru, or vice versa. That's number one problem. Number 2 problem is they're going to go through the stack, and the first 10, 12 people that look like good candidates, which is why you only get 7 seconds as a quick review, they get called in for phone screens anyway. And if you pass the phone screen, then you get called in for, or now these days, a Zoom call with the hiring manager. So the sheer number is just impossible to handle. So they can't reply to everyone. Number 2, there are some people out there that will sue if they don't like what you told them. So if I told Jim, I'm not going to hire you because you're a veteran and I'm worried about your PTSD or whatever, he could sue me for that, for character defamation. And he would be right, I did it. So the problem is hiring managers and HR guys don't know who is the guy that's just going to take the feedback and learn from it and get better from the guy that's going to go out and hire a lawyer and try to sue him.
Okay, Don, I'm going to do one more question and then wrap this up.
Okay.
I really appreciate your time here.
Oh, yeah.
The question from Christina is, how about reaching out to potential hiring managers or colleagues in a company when you don't know anyone? Cold calling, emailing this people is a question. Will this help you get in the side door?
Cold calling is a technique in sales that used to work many moons ago, but we've had a lot of less than professional salespeople in the profession that have kind of ruined it for everybody else that does do a good job. So never make a cold call. Find somebody that knows somebody inside the company. It doesn't have to be the hiring manager. If I'm looking to talk to Jim, but Jennifer is available, I'm going to talk to Jennifer first, so that Jennifer, and I know Jennifer through Paul. You see what I'm saying? You always want to warm up your call or your email by being introduced to someone who can make a decision on hiring you. But you want that to be a warm contact, not a cold one. Cold, the one I use, the example I use in the book is, here's a guy, my name is Tom Doe, I'm the regional sales manager for the Johnson Smith Lawnmower Company, and we make the world's greatest lawnmower. And it's, you know, it'll cut your grass to an even 3 1/4 inches, and it'll chop up whatever it cuts back into mulch. And it's so fine, it'll never turn into thatch. And it's also Bluetooth enabled. It'll tell you which part of your lawn needs water, which part needs fertilizer, so on and so on and so on. And in fact, since it's part of the Bluetooth application here, it'll actually tell your watering system to turn on over there underneath that tree. And so on. How many of them do you want? They're only $150. Okay. Does anybody see a problem with that? I live in the 8th floor of an apartment building. I don't have a lawn. There's no benefit to me to buying this guy's lawnmower. So keep your tool set in that frame of mind. Your tool set is your lawnmower. You want to go find people with a 5-acre lot that have neighbors that could wake up when they mow the lawn, or that, you know, they've got a child that needs to take a nap and the lawnmower wakes them up. So make sure you have a way to get to the person you want to get to before you try to get to them. If you do have a way, go for it. If you don't, try to wait until you find a way to get there. Does that make sense, Jim?
Yeah, my son just made a sale. He switched companies right when COVID started. And this is a long-term relationship building is what this is all about.
Yes. Whether
it's job search or on the job. The company he had been trying to get, he had actually met the sister of this other company he had actually visited one day. And all of a sudden they called on a Friday night 2 weeks ago. And the sister was saying, you know, we're having problems with our freight forwarder. Can you help me out? What's going on here? And he just took the time to explain how things should be and stuff like that. She says, wow, thank you very much. That Monday, he got an order. And in the last 2 weeks, he says, we got so much business over the last 2 weeks from India somewhere. It's just phenomenal. Mm-hmm. But he did what he does now is he sends out emails, but you know, it's freight forwarding, and he sends it out in such a way as, I know what your business is, here's how we can help you, something like that. Yep. Low key, no hard pressure. He follows it up, just says, you know, I'm just checking in, and he's been getting results. So I do believe you have to develop that relationship. And the problem when you're in the job search is you want instantaneous results. Right. And we have to think long-term here, because it may not happen today. I've had people get job offers after they've already been hired, and a year later, a company calls and says, hey, this position's open again. Are you still interested? So absolutely. Never, ever, ever stop networking, ever. You get your even the first day on your next job is your first day to continue networking for your next job. Yeah. And that's not because, you know, you're a bad person. I want you to give 110% to your new employer. Don't get me wrong. But I want you also to be aware that we are all free agents today. We are. The years of the benevolent corporation, you know, get up and go to work and do a good job and you're going to be, you know, employed for life, that's gone. That's over. So if you hold that anywhere in your bones, make sure that you shake it off like a bad cold, because it's just no longer true. You've got to keep your eye on number one. And none of us have agents unless you hire a career coach or you work with the guys at workNet DuPage who can help you always finding something new to talk about, some new way to present a skill, some new way to get your value proposition across. Because and you never stop networking. If you learn nothing else today, take that home. Don't ever stop networking. Keep your network fresh. Send out an email on LinkedIn. Send out a LinkedIn message to 10 people a week for 3 months, then start over again. So they don't hear from you every day. You're not bugging them to death, but you're kind of letting them know, oh yeah, I'm a grandfather now, or a grandmother, or I just got married, or whatever.
So those types of things. Life's going good. My job is going well, and just keep people informed on what's going on in your life, so you're fresh in their mind when things happen. And one last thought, at least from me, I don't know about Jim. Remember, we talked about don't be a pushy salesperson. You don't like to be sold, right? Nobody likes to be high pressure sold, to Jim's example that he just used with his son. But everyone likes to buy things. Everyone likes to buy things. No one likes to be sold. So don't get pushy. Don't be desperate. Desperation is scary for the guy across the table from you, because they think, oh my God, if they're that desperate. And you know what? If you need to take a job at Home Depot or Starbucks or something like that to pay the bills, do it. I noticed that workNet just published some things about COVID tracing last night on LinkedIn. If you need to take a part-time job to keep the food on the table, do it. But by the same token, do it in such a manner that you can continue networking and you can continue looking for your next career job. And you know, people get that. COVID is going to change this world to such a point that having a gap in your resume is no longer going to be considered a bad thing. Everybody's going to get it. So don't worry about that. Think about other things. Think about your value statements. Don't be pushy when you sell, remember. But you do like to buy things that you want. And never stop networking. Always be professional out there. Always put your brand foot forward professionally, everywhere, every time. You never know who knows your next boss. Back to you, Jim.
Okay. Thank you, Don.
You're welcome. Thank you for the invitation.
If some of the questions were about retrieving the question list, they didn't see how to download it. They can just contact you at info to get to talk about the 36 question.
Oh, yes, please. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. And just kind of throw in, there's a contact form on my website, or just email me at info@ecareercoaching.com and just tell me we met on the workNet DuPage session. And if you do choose to buy the book, again, I'll give you the $5 off. I'll give you the workbook to go with the book itself.
Okay.
Thank you for all you do for people, Jim, and your team.
You're welcome. I've had a lot of fun doing this, kind of like you at Apple. Never have a bad day, you know, so. All righty. I'm going to wrap this up. The presentation recording, it will take a while to be downloaded, and it will be on our website next week. Probably, I don't want 24 to 48 business hours, I'm going to say, because there's a lot of content on here. But man, there's a lot of great questions that came in here. We do have a survey. This is how we figure out how to improve our services as well as job search topics of interest. Please fill that out. We love reviewing them. Just like Don said, we take the good with the bad, you know, and but thankfully and mercifully, majority are good, and we try to resolve the issues if there are any, or try to come up with ways to address issues that you're dealing with. The code for today for your job search coaches, if you are working with one of our counselors, is Apple 302. I will put that in the comments here. It's Apple 302. You email that to your counselor, and that fulfills your requirement for attending, well, it's your monthly contact that the counselors are looking for, part of your fulfillment of the grant.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, Jim, if you put that, you folks put that in the email to me, I'll know that you get the $20 discount, you know, the discounted rate on the book as well. How about that? That's double usage for one piece of data.
Oh, wow. There you go. So I just put it in the chat box. All righty. There you go. Finally, well, not finally, I got a couple other things. When you get a job, please let us know, because this is how we help others. Our return on investment, we have to report to Congress on how the program works. And we keep, our metrics are 70% of people get jobs. We keep the grant, 80%. We get incentive monies to serve more of the public. And I've been here 25 years in various positions. We have always made 80%. So the services we're providing today is because of people from the past who have provided us that info so we can report to Congress the job, the company, and the salary and benefits so Congress sees that these programs work. Next Job Club, because of things that are happening and we're providing more services to our clients, we are going to be going to 2 job clubs, which is how we used to do it in the past before COVID, per month. Currently, September 18th, we have from COD, College of DuPage, career specialist talking about connecting your brand through the cover letter, ironically. Here we are branding again. And also the 25th, it's not on our website yet. I've contacted an HR specialist, director, who's been both in the corporate and the nonprofit arena to talk about the job search. So just for your information, we're not going to do a job club before Labor Day. So the 18th, and that is on our website, so you can sign up for that. And finally, I encourage you to go to workNet DuPage if you are new. Go to the Get Started page and sign up, or sign up for the Layoff to Launch workshop. Okay, everybody. Don, again, I appreciate you taking the time. A lot of great questions and a lot of great answers. Thank you.
Oh, you're quite welcome. Yeah, those questions were outstanding. Thank you, folks, for providing them.
And thank you, everyone else. And I'm going to end the meeting. So you all take care. Have a great weekend. And Don, again, I'll talk with you offline. Send you an email. All righty?
Thanks, Jim.
Great. Thank you.